Hello and welcome to our first ever episode of BBQn Sports. My name's Kelsey Moore and this is my co-host Jason Weaver. We've been best friends for over 10 years now and both have a strong love for all things sports, barbecue, beer, and especially when those things involve our hometown of Kansas City, Missouri. We decided to do this podcast because we spend most of our time discussing these things, so why not record it and distribute it to the masses? That's the hip thing to do nowadays, right? As I said, my name's Kelsey. I have a wife named Caitlin, an 11-month-old daughter named Lila. I watch the Chiefs religiously, as pretty much anybody who knows me could tell you. I love to barbecue and smoke wheats, or barbecue and smoke meats. I do that at least a couple times a week. Enjoy drinking new local beers every now and then, and love to eat out at different barbecue restaurants. Who doesn't love to eat out at barbecue restaurants, especially when you're in the king of barbecue, Kansas City, Missouri. I also enjoy playing a round of golf when time allows it, and my wife will allow it. Now on to you, Jason.
Okay, first of all, in the 15 years I've known Kelsey, I'm not sure he's ever used my first name, Jason. So probably from here on out, you'll mostly hear Weaver.
True.
Anyways, with that, my name's Jason Weaver. Huge Chiefs fan, big Royals fan. Did not grow up in Kansas City, but my first opportunity to move here, I fell in love with the city and moved up right away. So that's really all I got to cover as far as my background. So, Kelsey, you want to get us started?
Yeah, thank you, Weaver. I probably will not call you Jason maybe once the entire podcast. So on this podcast, we're going to try our best to stick to some topics. Obviously, if you know us, we won't do a very good job of that. But we're going to do our best to stick to the topics. City of Kansas City, as he said, we both love it. So that's what this mainly is going to be about. The sports in Kansas City, the Chiefs, the Royals. We'll try and touch on some Sporting KC, some MU and KU. I mean, college sports are relevant in Kansas City too. Even if the rivalry isn't as live as it used to be, we'll still touch on it. We're going to rate some local beers. So tonight we have Showtime from Martin City. We're both going to be drinking it, and we'll drink it for a little bit here, and then we'll rate it after we talk about the Royals here in a minute and tell you what we think about it. And then on future podcasts, we're going to do our best to rate some local barbecue restaurants. Like I said, I smoke meats and barbecue meats. Weaver barbecues from time to time as well. So we're going to try and rate some different local rubs and sauces. We actually have something good planned for this weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit later, or maybe on the next podcast. But today we're going to kick off by talking about the Royals. Anybody who knows Weaver knows he's an avid Royals fan. I grew up a Cardinals fan, actually, but I've taken on the Royals since I moved to Kansas City. So Weaver, since you're the diehard Royals fan, I'll let you kick off the Royals segment for us here, because most of this podcast today is going to be about the Chiefs. So I'll let you have your heyday here with the Royals.
So, first of all, when I think about this Royals season, I really think about it as more of a roller coaster ride. Early on, first month of the season, we really took on first place, and we were the best team in baseball, quote unquote. That was very short lived. I remember talking to Kelsey about it, saying that if I would take bets right now, it would be the Chicago White Sox would end up winning the division, and that looks like that's probably what's going to happen. It's pretty clear. That being said, though, after we went on that hot streak early on, we kind of died off, turned into a really terrible team. Then, closer to the end here, we're sitting in fourth place right now with 22, 23 games left. And I think there's a real good chance that we could actually end the season third, if not second place. 5 of those games are against second place Cleveland. And, a lot of times us Royals fans are always talking about how we get hot at the end of the year. We get pumped for next year and always get let down, right? But I think it's a lot different this year, because usually we get on that hot streak right before the season ends. And, it's not meaningful because we're still in last place or fourth place, right? So if we can get back up to second place by the end of the year, which I think we will, I think there's a good shot at it. I think it'll be a lot more meaningful going into the next season. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Kelsey.
No, so before I get into this, how many wins do you see the Royals having then? Right now they're sitting at 62 and 76 coming in tonight. I believe if they haven't won already, they're going to win tonight. Salvi hit another home run, so it'll be 63 and 76 as of tonight. How many wins do you have them end up having? Because I'm not even sure where second place is right now in the Central.
Yeah, so honestly, they still might be below 500 in second place. The division's pretty weak this year. As it stands right now, the Cleveland Indians are 68 and 69. And then you just talked about Kansas City's record right now. So and hopefully they win tonight. It was getting into a hairy situation before we got on live here. But I mean, I definitely think we could get close to the 80 win mark. I don't know if we're going to get there. I still think we'll probably be sub 500. But considering the turmoil we went through the third month of the year and just how bad it really was from a baseball standpoint, getting close to 500 this year I think would be great, and ending the season second in division would be an awesome feat. So
Yeah. So I mean, you touched on it. Hot start, cold third month of the season, and you touched on how ending the season strong will be good for the Royals. They're 62 and 76 coming in tonight. When I looked, it looked like they're gonna be 63 and 76. That being said, I was waiting on Weaver here for a little bit, so the score might have changed just a tad. So I was thinking 63 and 76 after tonight. I was thinking 74 wins was about where they were going to finish. Sounds like you're thinking closer to 78, 79. But either way, I think that what we've seen from them down the stretch is promising, especially given how young they are. The rotation, Singer's 25, Keller's 26, Bubick is 24, Hernandez is 24, Lynch is 24. Then you got Bobby Witt Jr., Mendez, and Prado and the minors tearing it up. They're three of the top 5 home run leaders in the minors right now. And two of them are 22, one of them's 21. So I think a realistic number for the Royals this year was 75 wins, and I think they're going to be right there. I think people got their hopes up a little bit, as they always do in Kansas City with the Royals. When they started that hot, people were thinking 85, 90 wins is realistic. And while it probably was, had they just played 500 ball the rest of the year, that, they would have been sitting pretty. But they had that cold streak, which you expect with teams like this. A young team who's, I mean, they're solid. They're getting better. They're young. I agree. Going into next year, it's an optimistic look for the Royals, which honestly, it hasn't been that for. Realistically, it hasn't been this optimistic for 7 years in Kansas City, 6-7 years. So I like where they're at right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
am I talking about being a playoff team next year? Maybe not, but at least competing for the playoffs. Whether it's for the division or a wild card, they should be a competitive team next year. They should be trying to be over 500 next year. If you finish with 75 wins this year, you don't want to take another step back like the Royals typically do.
Yeah, I agree. I still think they're 2-3 years away, really, from actually competing. I mean, you brought up Bobby Witt Jr. Everybody knows about the starting lineup, or the starting pitching, sorry, and all the expectations for them going forward. It's an extremely young rotation. We've got a ton of arms, but yeah, I think, and a lot of people know about Bobby Witt Jr. And I want to touch on, when Alberto Mondesi's healthy and on the field, that's when we're playing our best ball. And he's been injured, this is the third time, second time this year. He just came back. I mean, when he's playing, he's the best player on the field for sure. So, I mean, we signed him for a 1-year deal. This is probably it. He's probably going to be on the Yankees next year. I mean, I'd love to have him around as a utility infielder, but we got to move on to Bobby Witt Jr. I mean, honestly, he earned the spot coming out of spring training, but we had Mondesi on that 1-year deal, and I think that kind of pushed him back. And of course, they always try to keep people down longer than they can, as long as they can, so that they have them longer on the backside. I'm kind of disappointed that he hasn't been up here for September call-ups. I mean, I think he hit his 30th home run tonight, and you touched on how the Royals in the minor leagues are crushing homers right now. But yeah, he's batting .297 with 30 home runs in the minor leagues. I mean, I really think he earned a spot. for September call-ups. I think next year he's a starting shortstop. I don't see any reason why not. And I think we got to talk about Salvi Perez here, but and I got a little something to tag on to that later about Melendez. But anyway, so Salvi hit his 42nd home run tonight. He's one behind Otani now. He's already he's hit the most home runs for an American League catcher. So he's already got that under his belt. He's well on his way to another Silver Slugger award. I mean, I think that's a no-doubter. He could possibly have one of the greatest offensive seasons from a catcher, ever. So, I mean, he's well on his way. So he's got 3 more to go before he passes Johnny Bench's 1970 record of 45 home runs and claims the most home runs by a catcher ever. And I think it's funny, if you told me at the beginning of the year that a pitcher and a catcher would be the top 2 people on the home run board, I think I would have told you were crazy, but that's just the way it's ended up this year.
Yeah, Salvi is. I'm not sure where it is going to end tonight, but after last night, coming into today, he had 42 homers, which was second, or 41 homers, which was second in the majors behind Otani. He obviously hit 1 tonight, so he's 1 behind Otani. He was also tied for first in RBIs with 103 coming in tonight. So I don't know. I'm not sure where he's going to end up after tonight, but there's a legit chance he could end up. He could end up leading the major leagues in RBIs and home runs. Will he? I don't know. And have the greatest hitting season ever for a catcher. And like you said, it's just bizarre that he's competing with a pitcher to do that. But that's where we are in 2021. What else would you expect?
And here's the thing, right behind him in the minor leagues, we're talking about MJ Melendez, who is leading the minor leagues right now with 35 home runs, and he's batting 280 plus. Salvi's a big guy, and I'll be honest, like this might be a hot take or something, but the guy's got to switch over to either full-time DH or first base. He's already had a knee problem before, and he plays an above-average amount of games behind the plate. And call me crazy for having an all-star catcher as your DH and your first baseman and maybe even your backup catcher from time to time. But I think AJ Melendez, we got to bring him up pretty soon too. I don't want him, and I absolutely don't want him just sitting behind Salvi. The guy's got a bat. Maybe they split DH roles. I don't know, but you got to really start toning Salvi back if you want to keep him long term. And I think he's making a really good case this year that, hey, I could play DH, I could do it all. You know what I mean? He just never seems to get older. Like, he's gotten better every year. He's having a career year this year.
No, I completely agree with that. That was one point that I wanted to make. With him coming up, I don't know what your plan is. Do you, with Salvi aging, you almost have to assume that Salvi is going to DH, and they're going to put Melendez in that catcher role. I don't know. I would say with all 3 of those young guys, I wanted to touch on this. You said you were upset that he hadn't come up to the majors, talking about Bobby Witt. And I think it's good they've kept the 3 young guys together. Realistically, the Royals, when they would have brought him up potentially, if it expanded to a 40-man roster, Witt would have been in the majors. But since they toned it back to 28 or whatever it is now, I think it's good that they kept those 3 guys together in the minors playing together, because the fact is, if the Royals want to be good, those 3 are going to be playing together. And with Melendez coming up, I almost think that with Salvi getting to the age where he's at, you're right. Salvi has to be the one to move to DH or first base, if that's where they want to do, is try and put him at first base. But Salvi has to be the one to move and put Melendez in that catcher role. I don't know. I agree. It sounds like a hot take, and sounds like who would put one of the best defensive catchers at DH, but the way he's hit, you want to extend his career, like you said, and you've got a great young catcher behind him.
From what I understand, AJ Melendez is really good defensively too. So I
honestly don't know about that. I know he's been crushing the baseball. That's all I know.
I know. So Soler right now has got 48 homers for the Royals as the record, right? So that's reachable now. I mean, with 22 games plus, I mean,
The way
Salvi
he's
looks
been
like
hitting
he's
the
going to
ball,
crush that, right?
50 is reachable right now.
Yeah.
He's been crushing
And
it
then,
the last
and then
month.
to touch on what you said about keeping the young guys together, I mean, you're right. I mean, when we were at our best, you know, we brought Hosmer and Mustakis up together, you know, so and that was that core of that team. So I agree, and I mean, Salvi is going to be a compliment anywhere, but I just hope we don't do the typical Royal thing and trade them away. So
Yeah, that would be awful.
that's
When you
that's
have
the Royal way.
this much young talent, you certainly aren't going to trade it all away, right? Trade it all away for that one
Nah,
guy that's not going to help a team that has no supporting cast. Like, they have too much young talent to even be thinking about doing that right now.
yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, we just got to have faith in our young guys to put something together. I mean, I don't think we're going to have any, you know, Zach Greinke's or anything like that. I mean, eventually, when we're in that place competing, we're going to make a trade to get the guy like Ben Zobrist that's going to push you over and win you the World Series, you know. But
Yeah,
I mean,
that's when you make the
that's
trade.
down the road,
Is
and I
when
don't
you're
think,
when you're on that cusp.
yeah, and it's not going to be our established guys. It's going to be somebody probably in the minors that's up and coming. You know, a
Yep.
Will Myers who we traded away. You know, just you know, it's going to be a piece like that, and we're going to get what we need to make that push.
Yep. Hopefully, we'll see that in the next few years in Kansas City. Another baseball
2 to 3
run.
years. 2 to 3.
Another baseball.
I'd be
run in
happy.
Kansas City.
Oh man. Oh yeah. I mean, that was the happiest time of my life.
Yeah, I know. You went.
I
To
still
that,
think.
You went to
I
that
think
New
next
England
year.
Patriot, we were both at that New England Patriots game where we broke the sound record. You tried to convince us to stay for the wild card game the next day, and we didn't listen. You said it was the best 2-day stretch of your life.
The best baseball game ever played.
You
in
even
Kansas
tried to
City
argue with me that
was
the
that
crowd was
2014
louder than it was at Arrowhead, which is asinine.
It was insane.
Dude,
it was crazy.
I believe
for a
you.
baseball game.
I
It
believe
was
you.
crazy.
It didn't outdo Arrowhead. Give me a break. So before we completely switch over to the NFL, which is obviously, as you can see from our backgrounds, what we're dying to do right now, we're going to rate this fantastic Showtime beer from Martin City. Weaver hasn't even opened his yet.
I know. Unfortunately, I was talking too much.
Yeah,
So
he
first of all,
he was getting too hyped up.
we're not paid by Martin City or sponsored by them. So let's just get that out of the way.
Yes,
So,
we get our plan is to have a new local beer every week to try for you guys. We like local beer. Weaver also likes Busch Light, but we're not going to hold that against him. He also likes some good beer every now and then. So Weaver, what do you think? First drink, you just drank one drink. What do you think?
So it's not a really strong IPA. It's got that little bit of IPA kick right there at the end. Overall, it's pretty good. I don't think we even discussed how we're going to rate these beers. I mean, we're going to give them a number.
I think we should do like a 1 to 10 rating is what I'm thinking. And then obviously we'll do some lagers, we'll do some IPAs, we'll do some wheats. Everything is on its own scale. Wheats and IPAs are not on the same scale. All wheats are on the same scale. All lagers are on the same scale. All IPAs are on the same scale.
We can do that. Hey, this being the first one, I think we might have to revisit it in a future future attempt. I don't know if we give it a score that we're like, oh yeah, man, everything else we tasted was horrible compared to that. You know, we'd have to come back to it. But
yeah, and that's a possibility. We can do that. So what are you thinking? First thoughts. What are you thinking?
compared to some of the IPAs, I'm not a big IPA guy, but compared to some of the IPAs I've had and kind of the IPAs that I do like, this falls kind of in that spectrum. It's not super IPA at the end like a lot of them are, really dry and sour, I guess. Is that the word you would say? So anyways, Martin City Showtime IPA, 6% alcohol. I'd give it a 7.5.
Dang, I was thinking 7.5 as well. So it has decent flavor. It's got a little bit of hops at the end. We picked the Showtime because I mean it speaks for itself. Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, Week 1. We're ready for Showtime. Martin City, if you don't know, is a Kansas City staple nowadays. They have some pizzerias in Kansas City. Martin City is not a city. It's in Kansas City. It's a district, a living district in Kansas City. So it is a local beer.
They do have good food.
Yeah,
They
they
go
have
good
they have
food.
a couple, like, it's become a big deal in Kansas City. They have a couple
There's
pizzerias and stuff like that.
there's one in Lee Summit now.
Yeah. So we both give it a 7.5. We may have to come back to it. You don't know. It's our first one. May have to come back and visit it. But 7.5, solid beer. So now it's time for Chiefs football.
If somebody from Martin City does happen to see this and does want to sponsor us, go ahead. We got plenty more Martin City beers to try.
Yes, we've got plenty of Martin City beers we can try. We will accept any sponsorships, but we are not currently sponsored by Martin City. We are just drinking local beers and rating them for you. That's all. All right. So Chiefs season. What are your thoughts? This is for the whole. We're going to talk about the whole season before we preview this Browns game. Since we're off to a late start, we thought we should talk about what happened this offseason and what's going on into the season.
Yeah. So I think everybody knows we addressed some issues with the offensive line. I don't think anybody is blind to the fact that we had some issues in the Super Bowl with the offensive line. I think we did a good job addressing that. I still think there's some things that we should have addressed, like a number 2 receiver. Now, given that, I was thinking about this earlier because we were going to talk about this, and I'm like, really, don't we have a number 2 receiver? If Kelsey's number 1, Hill's number 2. If Hill's number 1, Kelsey's number 2, right?
Right.
There's not a lot of other teams in the league that have a Travis Kelsey at tight end.
So we're not saying a number 2 receiving option. I'm saying a number 2 wide receiver. Okay, we'll talk about the O-line in a second since you brought this up. Number 2 wide receiver. So the Chiefs' offense last year was at its best when Sammy Watkins was healthy, and that's because Sammy Watkins could take some of the pressure. People had to worry about Sammy Watkins. McCole Hardman has great upside. McCole Hardman is not consistent. In the preseason, we saw Mahomes target him a lot, and the last game he found him. Before that, they were on such different pages, it wasn't even funny, and we saw that sometimes last year. I'm not sure what the deal is, but it seems like sometimes Mahomes thinks McColl's going to do one thing on his route and McColl does another thing. And we don't really see those things with other people. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and we've seen Kelce and Mahomes on different pages before, but Travis Kelce doesn't seem to point a finger, or Tyreek Hill doesn't seem to point a finger at Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is a $500 million man. You don't point fingers at him. And McCole Hardman, in a couple post-game speeches last year, said things like, oh, me and Patrick were on the same page. I was going out, and he expected me to do something different, and he didn't read it right, and things like that. And you just don't say things like that about your franchise quarterback. Now, do I think it's a problem? No. But I don't have the most faith in McCole Hardman, if I'm being completely honest, to be our number 2 receiver. He is a fantastic third option, a guy who's going to get you 700 yards receiving. In an offense that you expect to be the number 1 offense in the NFL, you just want somebody that threatens the defense a little bit more, and McCole doesn't do that play in and play out.
So, first of all, does it also seem like Patrick Mahomes doesn't exactly believe in him enough? Like, it doesn't seem like he targets him enough?
I just don't think he... I don't want to say he doesn't trust him, but he trusts other guys more. And that includes Sammy Watkins, who only played half the season last year. That includes Demarcus Robinson. I know
Sammy
fans
Watkins.
don't like Demarcus Robinson, but I think that Patrick Mahomes trusts Demarcus Robinson a lot more than he trusts McCole Hardman. For some reason, fans hate Demarcus Robinson. I get it. He runs backwards sometimes, and he looks like he runs loose with the ball. But also, him and Mahomes seem to be on the same page.
Well, I'm rooting for Hardman this year. When Jeff Shorts tweeted out that the Chiefs needed a reliable number 2 receiver, he took that to heart. That's underneath his picture on Instagram. So I hope that gives him the fire to be a reliable number 2. But isn't Mahomes good enough to have the Tom Brady effect and just make Pringle a great receiver?
I think that Mahomes has already elevated other receivers on the team. DeMarcus Robinson, McCole Hardman, Byron Pringle. I don't know that any team would have the confidence in them to fight for number 2 if they hadn't just been having Mahomes throw him the ball the year before. Demarcus Robinson couldn't get a contract from anyone else, and he's been a serviceable receiver in Kansas City. So I think that Mahomes is already having that effect on receivers. It's the third option receiver, if that makes any sense. So like Tom Brady pulled Julian Edelman from being like a second option to a first option. Mahomes has pulled guys that should be like fifth options to a third option, if that makes sense. Mahomes
Yeah, low key Robinson.
Yeah,
low key Robinson's one of his favorites for sure. I mean,
yeah, and
he gets himself open.
Those guys in other offenses probably, like Demarcus Robinson had like 600 yards receiving last year in a 16-game season. Like a lot of other offenses, he's not going to produce like that. So I think Mahomes already has that effect, and it's the Kansas City offense in general. Andy Reid has that effect. Tyreek Hill has that effect. Travis Kelce. So it's everyone. But I agree with you. I think Mahomes is having the effect, though. You said it kind of like, shouldn't Mahomes be having this effect? I think he is having the effect. It's just not on the number one receiver, because the number one receiver is Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, and you already know they can produce. You know what I mean? So, like,
yeah,
it's not as obvious who he's having the effect on. Although Travis Kelce did just break the record for receiving yards for a tight end. So, I mean...
Yeah. I mean, he's basically a receiver. I mean, that's what... When you really want to talk about reliable receiver, though, I mean, he is. He's just...
No, I agree.
I mean... So, I mean, on the topic, since we're talking about, tight ends here, have you heard of the T-Rex formation?
Yes, the 14 formation that we're gonna have. So we kept 4 tight ends. That's one thing that I noted here. Apparently it's a new fad. Belichick, I think, kept 4 tight ends in New England this year. Chip Kelly has 4 tight ends that he uses now. So apparently it's a thing. I don't know. Back, 4 tight ends.
I can't wait for him to put it in Madden. I'm like, 4 tight ends. Is Travis Kelce taking a snap here? Are we running some kind of wildcat? But yeah, I mean, you got revamped offensive line with 4 tight ends. I mean, that's gonna be pretty scary.
So let's talk about this offensive line for just a second. I saw a tweet tonight, and you saw it too because I tagged you in it. The guy, I don't know, he's not a Browns fan. Not to my knowledge. Maybe he is a Browns fan, but he's paid for somebody else to write ridiculous things, and paid by somebody else to write ridiculous things. And he said something along the lines of the Browns having a better roster than the Chiefs. And if you want to make that argument, you probably can. The Browns have one of the best rosters in the NFL. But he also said things like the Chiefs should be worried about this offensive line. Kevin Stefanski is as good a coach as Andy Reid, which is asinine. Andy Reid might be the best coach in the NFL. If he's not, he's second to Bill Belichick probably right now. I don't think anyone would argue that. But this offensive line, let's talk about that for a second. Chiefs traded for an all-pro left tackle in Orlando Brown. I think anyone in the league would like to have an all-pro left tackle. The Chiefs signed an all-pro left guard in Joe Thuney. The Chiefs drafted who is widely considered the best center in the draft, and he's going to be their starter. The Chiefs drafted right guard Trey Smith in the 6th round from Tennessee. So Trey Smith, after the 2019 season, was not eligible for the draft. Had he come out in the draft, he was rated a top 30 to 40 player. The problem is in 2020, he suffered from blood clots. So he was taking medication to deal with those blood clots. He wasn't able to practice all the time because of the medication. So 1, he's suffering from blood clots. 2, he's taking medication for those blood clots, so he can't practice all the time. So obviously, he didn't look as good in 2020. His draft stock fell. And then he gets drafted by Kansas City in the 6th round this year. And in the preseason, everybody's saying if they redrafted, he would be a top 30 pick. Top 20 pick is actually what I've been seeing. But he would be a first-round pick. So the dude's drafted in the 6th round. The right guard that's going to start for us is a rookie who's drafted in the 6th round. And everyone's saying he would definitely be a top 30 pick now if they redrafted because of what they've seen in the preseason. And then Lucas Niang, he was a 3rd-round pick last year, sat out last year. Took it as a COVID leave, but he actually had knee problems. I think he'll be fine. But the fact is, this Chiefs offensive line, look at where we were last year, and at the beginning of the year, our offensive line looked okay, but by the end of the year, It was a bunch of second and third stringers playing in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes running around praying for his
AFC
life.
Championship as well.
Yeah.
Against the Browns.
And against the Bills. And look where we've come to now. Like we have 10 offensive linemen that would start on most NFL teams. So rather you want to look at our starting five and say they're not good or not, our backups would start on most offensive teams. We have Austin Blythe, we have Tardif, we have Kyle Long, this offensive line is deep and they're talented. I'm not worried one bit about offensive line. I am excited to see him against the Browns, but I'm not worried about the offensive line.
We did have injuries against the Browns, though, in the divisional round, didn't we?
Well, Patrick Mahomes.
No, he came. Yeah, I'm talking about on the offensive line. We had scratched in a couple of people, hadn't we?
So
at that point.
At that point, I mean, Jeff Schwartz hadn't played in weeks. The nail that broke the back was, or the thing that killed us was in the AFC Championship when Eric Fisher went down. We had to rearrange already full of backups.
That's right.
We had an offensive line that was already full of backups. We had to move all those backups around to play different positions.
Well, and here's the thing. I've heard over and over, these guys are rookies. They're not as good. They're not as good. If they weren't better than the second string guys would still be out there starting.
And we have a deep offensive line. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, we have talent on our offensive line behind those guys. So obviously Andy Reid has seen something from these guys that he wants them on the field. But with that being said, you brought up my next point. So Willie Gay is out this Sunday against the Browns. My question to you is, didn't we draft Nick Bolton for just this situation? So everything Andy Reid has said is that Nick Bolton has learned the playbook. He's very intelligent. He knows everything he needs to do. They're not worried about that at all. Ben Neiman's still listed as a starter this weekend. We know that Bolton is more talented than Neiman. So if Neiman's already picked up the playbook, why is if Bolton has already picked up the playbook, why is Neiman starting? That's my question. I don't understand.
We did the same thing with Willie Gay last year. I mean, I don't think he knew the playbook as well, but when he was in, he was all over the field, and he still was being held back. It was like he was on like a play limit, like he couldn't play so many downs. I don't know if that's part of their defensive plan to ease people in like that, but yeah, I don't really understand that either. I mean, if you got a guy that's more talented and he's going to be better for you out on the field, he'd be playing. But hey, in Andy Reid we trust, right?
Yeah, I'm never going to doubt Andy Reid, but it's just one thing I don't understand. Like, I don't know. There has to be some reason, right? Like, I don't know. Ben Neiman, I no offense to Ben Neiman. He's been there for us the last couple years, but he's not. So I saw a stat today, actually. This is funny. So Ben Neiman has been our dime linebacker. He was all year last year, and he was most of the year before. Guess how many passes deflected, how many tipped balls he has in his career, how many balls he's got a hand on?
Years he got?
2.
So we'll just go with 2. 0.
He has not tipped, deflected anything, a single pass his entire career, and he's been our dime linebacker the last 2 years.
That's terrible for a dime linebacker. That is awful.
Like, I'm not trying to put Ben Neiman down. I appreciate everything you've done in Kansas City. But if we think that Nick Bolton is better and we think he's got the playbook figured out, why is Nick Bolton not playing?
Well, we're talking about somebody, Willie Gay's out. Tyrann Mathieu still on COVID protocol. And that's, he's only got to have 2 negative tests to get back on the field, and where I think that he probably will, and this is just some kind of mind game that we're playing with the Browns. If he's not out on the field, that's going to be heavy on our secondary.
That'll be bad. So we're at Wednesday, so I don't know if they said if he tested negative today or not. It's been a week now.
What? Yeah, Andy Reid keeps saying that he's doing well. I don't know what that means.
Did you see
either have COVID or you don't.
So his
I was listening to part of it.
He said he's doing better. And they're like, so does that mean that he had symptoms and they're better now? He said,
That's
no,
what I meant. Yeah.
no, the tests are going better now.
Yes, the tests are going. What does that
Wait,
even
did he
mean?
study for the test and he's starting to figure it out, or what? Like what's even going on there? I don't know what that means, Andy.
COVID's dwindling in his body, I guess. Is it
This is
even
like typical
confirmed?
Andy Reid. Is he gonna play or is he not gonna play? I'm not gonna tell
Yep.
you.
No, that's what I'm saying.
It's
I
looking
definitely
good.
think it's just a mind game.
He's always
Try to
saying that the
prepare for
guy's gonna
him to
be.
not.
They're looking good. They're looking good. He might not play for 6 weeks, but it's looking good.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we did with the offensive line all year last year. We'll be back. They're going to be
Yeah.
back.
Jeff Schwartz, Eric Berry. Yeah, it's been
So
Andy Reid's entire time.
looking forward to this Browns game. I can't help but draw back to last year's playoff game against the Browns, and
So wait, hold on. Before we do that, what do you have the Chiefs going this year, record-wise? Because we have to
you
give
want
a
to cover
prediction.
that first?
Yeah, we have
All
to give a
right.
prediction.
So I got them going 13-4. I think we got a really hard stretch. The first 5 games for those teams are competitive. They're going to be really competitive. I mean, the Chargers this year are going to be really competitive. They're one of those 4 teams in the first 5 games. I don't think it's as easy as it's made out to be. I think we do have some tough games. Andy Reid's always good for one loss to a team that we shouldn't lose to. Just from my experience, I mean, I look back to the Oakland Raiders like 2 years ago or something. There was no reason to. Why was that last year?
The first time we played them last year, yeah.
Yeah, no reason to lose that game, and we lost. I mean, it just seems like that happens. Kind of like he doesn't want to give up his secret saucy plays, and we end up losing those games. But I mean, so yeah, I'm going to stick with 13-4. Now, if we come out of those first 5 games and we don't have a scratch on the record, which that'd be impressive, honestly. We start out 5-0, I think. That would change, from my opinion. I mean, I'd be sitting there with Patrick Mahomes going, yeah, we're going 17-0.
20-0. Super Bowl chance.
Well, okay. You want to go all the way to the playoffs? Sure. I think did Patrick Mahomes say 20-0?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That would be terrible if he said 17-0. He better say 20-0. No point in saying 17-0. We don't want to repeat the Patriots. So I have us going 14-3. We do have some tough games. We have the Browns, Ravens, Bills, Titans, Packers, Washington football team, the Cowboys. I see us losing a couple of those games. I don't think any of those teams are better than us. But when you play that, I mean, when you have that many difficult games, I think we'll lose a couple of them. And I actually think a division team will beat us this year. We are pretty good against our division. Last year we lost the Raiders. Andy Reid has been very successful against our division. I just think the AFC West is good this year. I think the Chargers will compete for a wild card spot. I don't think anyone in the division is a great team. But I think all 3 teams are capable of winning games this year. I think the Chargers are a 9-10 win team. I think the Raiders and Broncos are probably both 7-8 win teams. I don't think anyone's terrible this year like we've had in the past. So when you play 6 tough games against the division, I think we're probably going to lose one of those. And then, like I said, those tough games we have this year. So go ahead. You can go ahead and say what you were saying about the Browns. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to make sure we got that out there.
Oh, so yeah. I mean, looking forward to this Browns game. I just can't help but look back and watch the highlights of last year's Brown game, and the one play that sticks out to Chad Henne. I still believe he got the first down on that run, the third and 13, 3rd and 14. Man, I watched it like 5 times today, and I swear he got the first down. I mean, it doesn't matter because we went for that crazy 4th down play, which I was just like screaming at my phone when he hiked the ball. Like I just wanted to throw my phone across.
Andy Reid's big balls off the field. They are
oh
that
my
big.
god!
You still
I mean,
can't drag them off the field.
I mean, yeah. If you weren't freaking out when that ball got hiked, you're not a Chiefs fan, or you just don't know football. But man, I was like, I just couldn't believe we were gonna do it. Then we passed the ball, and I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna drop it. Whew. Yeah, that guy's a hero, and he, maybe we should just put him in the Ring of Honor just for that play. I mean.
So it's funny you bring it up because I was actually watching replays from it. The only thing I can say is they called it short on the field, so maybe that's why they let it stand. When you watch that view from the inside of him running, toward the outside, the first down marker out there, it looks like he got it. Like, it looks like there's
Yeah.
no doubt he got it. But the only thing I can say is maybe they said the ruling had to stay because they didn't have indisputable evidence.
Well, and sometimes that marker, because we can only tell really from that side view with that where that marker is. They did bring out the chain, if I remember right, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
So I mean, sometimes the chain's a little bit off compared to the marker, but I mean, it looked like he was clearly over, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was close. But if he would have gotten the first down, then we wouldn't have got to talk about how big Andy Reid's balls are. So I'm glad he didn't get the first down, because that next play on that flat to Tyreek Hill, man, that goes up there with the New Orleans Saints opening the second half with an onside kick. That's one of the biggest balls plays I've ever seen in the history of football, and I've watched a lot of football. That play, if that doesn't hype you up, I don't know what does. But yeah, I was looking back at that. So there's a lot of social media talk about how the Browns had the Chiefs number and they had the right game plan for that game. And you go back to that game, and yes, it felt like it was close at times. But when Daniel Sorensen made that hit that everyone thinks was an illegal hit, and I think was an amazing play by Daniel Sorensen, that was an all-time great play by Sorensen. He seems to have those. He has a lot of mishaps, but he also brings out some all-time great plays from now and then. When Daniel Sorensen had that hit, it was a 16-3 ball game. The Chiefs had scored at will. Like, the Broncos couldn't stop them. And everyone talks about the Browns, I'm sorry. The Browns couldn't stop them. And everyone talks about how the Browns had the Browns literally couldn't stop them when Patrick Mahomes was on the field. When Patrick Mahomes went down in the third quarter, he had like 240 yards passing, and he had played half the third quarter. It was 2.5 quarters. He had 240 yards passing. Like, the Chiefs' offense wasn't even getting slowed down. So, while this Browns team is very, very good, they have a lot of talent. They don't have Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs probably have the 3 best offensive players. Nick Chubb is the person you make the argument for on the Browns. But in my opinion, the Chiefs have the 3 best offensive players in this game. Nick Chubb is right there with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. I think because of how the game is today, I would take Hill and Kelce because it's a passing league, not a running league. Nick Chubb is as good as running back as there is in the league. But I just don't see the Browns winning this game. And not even getting to the point that Andy Reid is unbelievable in opening day games. Patrick Mahomes is unbelievable in the month of September. I don't see the Browns winning this game. I just don't see it happening.
Looking back at and obviously I went back and watched the highlights and stuff, and I kind of remember now, or I kind of remembered when I was watching that I wasn't really worried about the game until that drive where it was 3rd and 13, and the Browns had been kind of hot, and if they'd gotten the ball, I had no doubt they were probably going to march down the field and score, and I was still an 8-point game, right? I mean, they still had to go for a 2-point conversion. But yeah, I mean, if you match up the roster to roster, look, they don't have Patrick Mahomes, so.
And they don't have Patrick Mahomes, they don't have Tyreek Hill, they don't have Travis Kelce, they don't have Andy Reid. Like,
I mean, their defense has the edge.
So this is a funny topic. The Browns' defense has gotten a lot better since last year. The Browns' points against rated 20-something. The Chiefs rated 10th. So, yes, the Browns have a lot of talent on their defense, and they got better in the offseason for sure. They have one of the best pass rushers in the league. Speaking of which, Chris Jones moving to DN, we will have one of the best pass rushers in the league now. That DN position, he will be getting after the quarterback this year. That'll help our pass rush a lot. But statistically, the Chiefs' defense was better than the Browns last year. The Browns limit possessions a little bit more, I would say, because of the running game. They don't score as quick. So that's an advantage to them. But even with that, if you give them that advantage and the Chiefs still hold teams less points, what's that say about the Browns' defense? The Browns' defense, probably one of the most overrated things last year. They were a 23rd ranked defense or something like that last year overall. Chiefs defense, if you include points and yardage, they'd probably be top 15. Browns were top 25. Their defense wasn't that good last year.
with as much as we score compared to them, yeah, you'd think the points against would be much higher. We'd be in a much worse situation than them. So I just think if you compare roster to roster, you could probably give them an edge on defense. Whether or not you perform like that, that's a different story. So,
No, I agree.
look,
If
look,
you match the rosters up, you can make an argument for the Browns. But there's just some key things that the Browns don't have, and one of them is Patrick Mahomes.
absolutely. And I think looking forward to this game, I know you talked about Chubb, but what's that?
I said Patrick Mahomes, Showtime.
Oh, Showtime. Yeah, we need to get the MVP beer. But looking forward to this game. I think most people are most excited to see the offensive line, of course. But I mean, I think one of the things that I really want to see, and hopefully it happens, is we use Hilaire more out of the backfield as a receiver. I mean, I don't feel like we've utilized him in that role yet, and I kind of felt like when we drafted him, that was the whole purpose. Was he was a good receiving back, and it would be a great fit for Mahomes. And I guess in training camp they were practicing some screen plays and stuff. So hopefully we start to see that, because I think that's going to change the dynamic. I think about what we used to do in the past with Charles and some of these other guys with screen plays, and I mean, we get Hilaire doing that's going to open up this offense to a whole nother level.
So a couple things on that. One, I think that they're scared. Darrell Williams was pretty much our third down back last year, and I think they don't think that Hilaire is a good enough pass blocker at this point to be our third down back, and that's probably your best opportunity to get passes thrown to you is on third down. I think that's one reason why. One thing to look out for this year, they changed the cut block rule, and it's harder for offensive linemen to get out there and get screens on guys when they can't dive at the guy, which is how they pretty much changed the rule, and everything is a cut block now. So they changed it this offseason. So if they see a guy diving out there, it's supposed to be a cut block no matter what now. So I don't know if that'll affect Andy Reid because he likes the screen game. But that's one thing that might affect the NFL game overall. You might see less screens because of that. I like Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. I was very hyped when we drafted him. He was the 32nd pick. I can't complain about drafting a running back in the first round, but you know how I feel about running backs. I think they're replaceable in today's game. But I like Hilaire. I don't know. I don't think he is exactly what we thought we were getting, and I think Andy Reid feels the same way. He's a very versatile guy. He's not a guy who's going to get 600 yards receiving, I don't think. He's not a guy who, he might, because he's playing Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, he might run for 1,000 yards, but he's not a guy I have a lot of faith in a 17-game season especially. He's not a guy I have a lot of faith in to run for 1,000 yards consistently.
Hopefully we don't need him to run for 1,000 yards either. It'd be
nice. Hopefully we see more from him this year. I don't know. I don't know. I just was a little let down by that. Now, L'Jarius Sneed getting drafted in the 6th round, that made up for the first-round pick. But him being such a great corner drafted in the 6th round, that's a whole nother story. Sneed, 6th-round pick last year. Trey Smith, 6th-round pick this year. Everyone complained, saying that because Mahomes got his big payday, we're going to have to be experts at drafting. Well, we're doing a darn good job these last 2 years if we have the steal of the draft both years.
Yeah, that's got to be up there on the steal of the draft, right? Sneed
definitely was last year. If you
they redrafted, he's in the first round.
He's a top 15, 20 pick. He was as good a rookie corner as there was last year.
So, we talk about Hilaire. Where does McKinnon fall in line here as the backup? Is he going to be used a lot in that pass game? Is he going to be, third string guy?
So I think he will be the third string guy mainly because Darrell Williams will be the third down back. That being said, I do think that they're going to use all three guys. If you remember, Darwin Thompson got a lot of carries last year. He's obviously gone. We only kept 3 running backs and the fullback, Burton. So I think that in the past we've given Darwin Thompson carries. So I think that McKinnon will be used. Um, I don't know how much. I wouldn't say more than. I mean, think about how we've done running backs lately. Le'Veon Bell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, LaShawn McCoy. I mean, we just throw guys out there. Not saying we just throw them out there, but we continuously throw guys out there to keep them rested, to keep the defense off balance. Not that we run them religiously or anything, but that seems to be like what Andy Reid wants to do. So I see McKinnon getting 10, 15 snaps a game. I don't see him being a huge contributor.
Yeah, he's still a serviceable back. I mean,
Oh yeah, no
he can
doubt,
still contribute for sure. So
for
I
sure.
mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him as the number 2 guy towards the end of the year. And I don't know, maybe he'll get utilized more in the pass game.
I don't know, maybe. I just know that Reid has a lot of faith in Darrell Williams, and Reid's one of them guys that seems like when he has faith in a guy, he doesn't want to get away from him. Daniel Sorensen, Ben Neiman, I don't know.
Yeah.
He likes to give the guys that he has faith in opportunity after opportunity. I could be wrong. McKinnon could be the number 2 back right from the get go. Who knows? But I think Darrell Williams will probably play third down back most of the year.
Well, so about the Browns game this weekend, what's your predictions for the score? What do you see the outcome of this game?
So I have the Chiefs winning 35-24. Like I said earlier, I don't think the Browns were stopping us in the playoffs when Mahomes was healthy. So I see us more or less scoring like we expect the Chiefs offense to score. That's only 5 touchdowns. So, I mean, I know 35 points is a lot, but with this Chiefs offense, 5 touchdowns can happen in a hurry. But Andy,
so we got the same score for the Browns. I was going with 31-24. I think it's going to be a little bit closer game. I just don't predict us to get off to a hot start. Now, I mean, it's very possible that we could. I mean, I do think this crowd's going to be one of the most electric crowds that we've seen, just because it's going to be a full stadium. I mean, people are dying for football right now, and that might affect the game a little more than I'm thinking. I mean, if the Browns get, if that stadium gets a rocking, that offense might just go to shambles. So.
Yeah,
but that being said, I still expect it to be a pretty good close game. I mean, 1-score game for sure.
Andy Reid is great in opening season openers because he brings out all kinds of stuff that nobody expects him to bring out. Patrick Mahomes has been great in the month of September in his career, and as good as the Browns are, the key here is the offensive side of the ball. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are great running backs, but you have to score every time when you're running the ball. I know people think that you can play keep away from the Chiefs, but they still have to score every time because the Chiefs' offense is going to go down and score. That's what's going to happen. So I don't know. I just don't think they can keep up on the offensive side of the ball. Their defensive line might give our offensive line trouble like people think. I don't see it happening. I have faith in that offensive line. And Tyrann Mathieu doesn't play. That could hurt us, but
yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I just continue to feel like we get off to a slow start defensively every year, and I feel like we've made strides in the right directions, especially towards the end of last year. But I just feel like that's still going to happen for some reason. It's just a gut feeling to me that we're going to get off to a slow start again defensively. And maybe that's just because of the matchups. The first 5 weeks, I just see a lot of decent teams we're playing. Maybe that's just got my mind foggy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We always tend to do well in the first week. I don't know. Maybe I'm not remembering the defense struggling as much. I'm not sure. But I think of all the first weeks I can think of, and we always seem to play pretty well. I don't know. I have us winning 35-24. I just don't see Baker Mayfield keeping up with Patrick Mahomes. So this Sunday we talked about how we're gonna um, include barbecue talk on here as well. This Sunday, Weaver, I have pork butt on the menu. We're going to make some tacos out of that. So I'm looking for some hometown seasoning, taco seasoning to use for that. But we will make a TikTok of how that turns out. So make sure you tune into our TikTok. It's literally BBQn underscore sports or at BBQn underscore sports. So make sure you turn into our TikTok. We'll have beer reviews on there. We'll have barbecue reviews. And, you know, maybe we'll shotgun a beer and put it on there too. Who knows? We'll see how the day goes. But thanks for joining us for the first episode of BBQn Sports, BBQn Sports. I think we had a blast today, and we plan to do these weekly. So until next time, don't stop smoking the meats.